if you're going to do a project like this, get some tools that are worth having, because if you're going to try to do it with something that, like, I don't know, you've had in your toolbox for 5 years and it's something you never use and you're not comfortable with it and it's just kind of a cheap tool, this ain't going to work. I've come to realize that the older I get, the more patient I am with things, and that kind of leads to some other complications because I can no longer ignore the little stuff. So I've stepped into one here, and I've got a little bit of a journey to go, but we are putting nitrous on the Dakota. But in the instance of doing so, I'm gonna rewire the truck. Why? Well, just because most of it is making me just very upset and anxious, because there is a lot going on. And as you can see, I have pulled out the dash. I have pulled out wiring, and I have just kind of started getting the stuff. So let's try to go down the list of things that are concerning, right? So I pulled out the dash because I would have to get up underneath the dash to get to any of the wiring to do things. Well, started doing that, realized that this lead for the Holley Terminator X is quite large, quite long. And while it looks good in the engine bay, I have about almost 2.5 foot of extra length here. And previously the ECU was mounted right here, and well, that worked for a while. Before too long, we're going to put a roll cage in this truck, and the roll cage is going to come along this pillar and come all the way down here through the bottom of the floor. So it's going to run right through where the ECU was. So I already have to move the ECU. And so while I have to move the ECU, I figured, well, I'm going to move it back here, and I'll show you guys that one once I get done. I actually have to mount it today to be able to start doing the rest of the stuff I want to do. I also have a new wiring. It's new to me. It's a new wiring fuse block that I bought during a swap meet, and it's really good stuff. It's a leash electronic box with all the individual relays on it, and I'm going to use this to activate nitrous, or maybe not activate nitrous, but to activate a lot of different things. So I'm going to get rid of some extra relays and stuff like that, and I need a place to mount that, so I'm going to mount that on the firewall. And basically, you can see where this is going. This is just kind of spiraled out of control. I already planned to move the seat out so I could get everything, and then I was like, you know what? It's not that difficult for me to get the dash out. And then I was like, well, Monkey Fab Garage, who actually are kind of local to me, sells a kit to be able to repin the Holley harness. So I bought connectors here, and I'm going to shorten all this up. I have a lot to do, basically. Well, I'm going to start getting after it here in a minute. So I'm not going to do one by one pieces here. We're going to have to kind of show you guys in sections here, but I'm going to try to shorten this harness up at least to about here, so that it is nice and easy to plug into the ECU, which is going to be mounted on the wall there, and I don't have all this service loop stuff hanging out. So, do I need to do this, or do I have to do this? No. Do I need to? It's just going to make me feel better, and I'm going to be able to wire this truck up a little bit better, cleaner, more user-friendly, because remember, this is a drag and drive truck and I need to be able to access stuff. However, with all that said, I don't necessarily recommend doing this. If you are somewhat new to the automotive world and you haven't done like a decent amount of wiring projects, this is a lot to take on, because I am taking a very functional, good harness and I'm going to be cutting a whole bunch of wire out of it and splicing on new ends, which if you ask some, especially somebody that was on the forum that was there, you're supposed to have a $400 tool to do it correctly. Well, I'm not worried about that $400 tool. A lot of people do this all the time, and I'm comfortable with doing this. But however, follow this at your own risk and your own comfortability. If this seems like it's a lot to you, it probably is. But let's get started. What I'm going to get started with is tools for the job. So I wanted to go over some of this before I kind of dive into it and explain what we're going to be doing. So I actually have some decent, in fact, there's my Knipex, decent wiring tools. And a couple of them are ratchets. This is supposed to be a ratchet, but it's not. But I'm going to start off here. So this is actually my wire stripper. And it does just like that. It grabs a hold of wire, strips it. You're pretty good to go. That's all I use this for, is to strip wires. These are for non-insulated butt connectors, which is what these are right here. So non-insulated butt connectors, which means exactly what that is. They're not a butt connector with an insulation on them. The little blue, yellow, and red ones that you see kind of everywhere. These are much cleaner. You use some heat shrink on them and you're good to go. They don't take up much room. They're not very thick in diameter. I got a very nice set of wire cutters. These are my Knipex wire cutters. It's one of my very, very favorite tools in the world. I've had these things for so long, I don't remember when I got them. But I love them. I lost them once and found them back, and I was really happy about that. These are for insulated butt connectors, and they are crimpers for those. So like they're nice and easy. I bought them from Summit. Nice and get them. These are going to be the key today, because we're going to be using these to crimp on the connections for the Holley Terminator X Harness stuff, and I'll explain all that to you once I get to the parts. These are similar to these, but they're one-sided. This will crimp not only the wire, you see one side's thicker than the other, it'll also crimp the sheathing so it all stays in place together. So I wanted to go over all that. I can't really give you part numbers on this stuff. I've had it for so long. But what I am going to say is, if you're going to do a project like this, get some tools that are worth having. Because if you're going to try to do it with something that, like, I don't know, you've had it in your toolbox for 5 years and it's something you never use and you're not comfortable with it and it's just kind of a cheap tool, this ain't going to work. Let's look over what I ordered to do this job. So first of all, from Amazon, I got another set. I'm just kind of replenishing my supply of marine grade heat shrink. So this stuff has an adhesive inside that seals up the wire so that it's like waterproof. Bunch of different sizes. Love this stuff. If it works right, hopefully it is the right stuff. These are for when we start doing like the fuse block is what I'm getting at. We're not probably going to get to this today, but just in case, I wanted to show you guys that. Some of my orders from Amazon. And then these are non-insulated butt connectors. And then these forks, and non-insulated, and a bunch of ring terminals, which will come in handy at a later time. This is the J1A and J81B connectors for the Holley harnesses. And what it does is it actually replaces these here. Technically, I could just pull these off, pull all the wires out of them, and then, reuse them. However, I don't want to take that chance in losing where I'm at in placement of all this stuff. So I decided I'm going to do one at a time, and we're going to go through it, and we're going to replace one wire at a time, pull out of the plug, pull into the new plug. It'll make sense once we start doing it. But I bought these so that make that job a little easier. And it comes with all the pins as well. Monkey Fab Garage, awesome, awesome stuff. They've got, my whole fuel system is Monkey Fab Garage. Some of my wiring stuff is Monkey Fab Garage. I love the guy's stuff. It's affordable. It's probably made in China, but it's good stuff. It's good quality stuff. So believe it or not, you can have both China quality stuff. So I'm going to get it set up here and then kind of walk you through what my process is, and then I'll just get after it, because I'm not going to do a step-by-step on this, because this is going to be a lot of work. If I didn't say this before, I'll say it again. I'm sure I have, but I keep getting ahead of myself and getting in a hurry, and I have to make myself stop and assess everything. So one of the things that I did is I went and got a diagram, although not great printed out, and I printed out the pinouts for both of these connectors. So you have the longer connector, the larger connector, which I think has, let's see, we can look, 34 pins. And then you have the smaller connector, which is right here, which has 26 pins. I've already been through this harness as far as pulling the sheathing off, all the electrical tape and things to that extent, so I can see what was going on. I've actually already depinned a couple things in here. I've cut the wire, and I've only done that because I made notes. I actually made little videos to myself of what I was doing, and two, that I knew I had access to these, so that I can at least get the color, which is in this middle column here, and then the pin of where it's at. On the back of these things, which I don't know if I'm going to be able to show you guys, are numbers as far as the rows, and the numbers correlate to the pins. So if I can try to look at this one here, the very top pin here, I believe, is an orange wire, and it's number 20. I say that with a question mark. Let me see what I can see. 26 actually. So counting over from 26, you got 26. The little block is in 27. The blue wire is in 28. Another blue wire is in 29, and so forth and whatnot. So it all counts this way. If I flipped it over, the top left-hand one would be 1 there. So I can correspond that with all of these. And I'm saying that to basically prep you for what I'm doing. I know where a lot of this stuff goes because of these diagrams, but I'm going to pull one pin out at a time, and then I'm going to cut the wire. I'm going to fasten on a new crimp for it, and then I'm going to insert it into the new plugs that I got from Monkey Fab. So that's the whole process. But first, before I do any of that, I need to disassemble this wire a little bit further. I had to ask questions. There's 3 shielded wires. These wires are shielded from each other so that they don't make each other mad and cross signals and things to that extent. So there's a shielding within this plastic stuff. This one here, which should have 7 wires, is your O2 sensor. These 2 here, and I don't remember which is which, one is a crank sensor, one is a cam sensor. Well, we need to kind of take a look at these things because I know that they're soldered here, and I got to pull them back. So I'm going to pull them back to at least to this right here, and the way I'm going to do that safely is with something my wife uses, which is called a seam ripper. So I want to pull this stuff back so I can get a good look at it and see what's going on. So let's go ahead and get started on that. All right, here's what we have going on. On each side there is a red wire, which is your power, probably your 5 volt, a bare wire, which is to the sheathing itself, and then a black wire, which is to your sensor ground. So with that said, I think we're safe to go ahead and start kind of disassembling this stuff. I'll take some pictures so we know how it goes back together, but most of that is pretty self-explanatory, so I think we're going to be okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out this sensor ground. It's not exactly the order I want to go in, but the sensor ground goes into, all right, it's actually number 14, which is right here, which says black with the shielding ground. So that's exactly what we're looking for. So awesome. I'm going to pull it out. If you haven't seen this before on the Holley connectors, it's pretty easy to pull this stuff out. There's a gray lock that we can push down on. You hear that click, and then we can grab the wire that we want, and hopefully just that wire, and pull it straight out. Let's lock all these back in. There it goes. Come on, we'll go back in. There we go. All right. The next thing I'm going to do, since I still have this bunch of wire connected, I'm going to go ahead and remove these two wires. One is the cam sensor. One is the crank sensor. So if I look on my diagram, A22 is what I can out, is the purple, which is the cam, digital, and pickup. We have number 26 right here, which is this orange wire. Yeah, 26. So we count back 25, 24, 23, 22 is this purple wire. We're going to double check that we have the right one, the one on the bottom, and I'm actually going to label it. Moral of the story, triple check this stuff. So the top one here, purple, A22, is your cam sensor wiring. Bottom one here is A30, your crank sensor wiring. We can look at our diagram. We got A22 purple cam, A30 purple crank. So now we know where things are at. I'm going to pull those two out. Here we go. There we go. And there we go. It's getting sketchy now. Lock all that back in. Then this whole section here can be put off to the side. And now I think we can go one by one. The next thing is what we have to do is I've been trying to figure out the best way to route this stuff. I'm thinking I'm going to put a P-clamp here. It's going to hold all this fun stuff up. And then we are going to come into the plugs here. So I need to get an idea of where to cut things, which I'm going to start probably with all these wires here from the terminal that we're starting on. All right, now I have an estimated run of where they should be, and I'm going to mark all of these guys the same way. I'm going to run them along with this guy, get an idea where we need to be, and mark them. And my battery's about to die in my light. All right, so I'm going to do a whole bunch of work, and I'll come back to you guys when we're ready for the next steps. See how well I can get this done, but I may have to put you guys down when it's time. But I do have the new connector here, which is exactly the same. In fact, it's already unlocked. Position number 1 is here. So if we look at these connectors, they're the exact same. So I'm going to use this as a reference for this. I'm going to take my wire that I'm working with, and I'm going to strip off maybe 1/4 of an inch. Thank God. I'm just going to kind of take a peek at it and see how it fits in there. We're good with that. Then I'm going to load it in my tool. I think I'm good. And then I crimp it down. And then that first one is done. Now, I still have a whole lot more of these to do. I'm going to check the tightness on this guy, make sure it's good to go. But eventually, I'm going to replace this in number 3 where it came from. And I'm not going to do that now. Again, I'm going to check all this stuff. But I have a whole lot of being patient and taking my time and trimming this harness to get it done. So I'm going to shut you guys down so it's not a distraction. And I'm going to take my time and get this done. Again, if you're comfortable with wiring, you can probably already know how to do some of this stuff, but if not, maybe some of my tips will help, but do this at your own risk and be very, very careful. This can be very frustrating if it messes up and you have issues. So I don't want to be, I'm not responsible for that. You're on your own, is what I'm saying. So be careful, take your time. I'm gonna go throw some jams on, and I'm gonna get after it. Well, hello. It's another day. Last night I spent probably 2.5 hours on just one side. So we'll look in here. It's all done. I've double checked it with the pinout like twice to make sure it's all good. I still have a couple more things to add. One of the difficult parts here is I labeled these earlier. One's a cam sensor and one's a crank sensor, and it matters where they go, which is why I'm glad I labeled them. But if you look, there's a ground wire here. This goes into actually the connector that I did there. But it also has two ground wires for the sheathing to make sure that they're protected from electrical interference from each other. So I have to pull these guys down and kind of trim them up and make them all work. So I'll work on a way to do that here in a minute. But it's going good. But it's still just going to be, it's time consuming. It takes a lot of time to get all this stuff done. But if you take your time, you can be successful with it. If you try to hurry through it, there's a good chance you might screw something up. Am I glad I'm doing this? I don't know. But I'm going to keep on. I do think it's going to help clean up a whole bunch in here. And I'm hoping it still works. So I'm going to keep after it, and then I'll update you guys probably this weekend once I get to a point where I can test fire it and show you else what I'm doing. So see you in a little bit. Couple days have gone by, and it's been quite a lot of hours of repinning and pinning and trimming, but we have about a little over 24 inches of harness that we trimmed out of the harness in the truck. And if y'all remember that huge service loop before, it's gone. Well, the thing is, it's been a lot of work, but it's been worth it. And it's not exactly extremely done yet. I still have a couple things to do, but I do have it done just enough to check. And I did check this already, heads up. It does still run. And gotta go back. Everything's working, yay! The alternator's not working right now, which I'm aware of, but AFRs are off too, interesting. But there we go. It still runs, so that's a good thing. It's a very, very good thing, and I'm very, very happy. And now we got to get to working on the rest of it. So a couple things still have to be done. It's interesting that it was so fat. I wonder why it was so fat. Haven't had that problem before, but we'll look at it another time. I'm not too worried about it at the moment. But now we are going to work on creating a panel, an electrical panel. And what I mean by that is, I don't know if I've already shown you guys this, but this is a Boost Electronics or Leash Electronics multi-relay board. And how it works is you have power that comes into here, ground that comes into here, and then all of these guys right here are 12-volt trigger wires. I bought this used at a swap meet for a really, really good deal. I think I paid $75 for it. Sorry, it's a little hot still in October 1st today. Yeah, so I think I paid $75 for it. They're 300 brand new. And I've tested them all, and they all work. So I'm going to be using this for some of the functions in the truck, and I have plenty more to add to them later. And I also have if I can find them. I have these guys here. And these are going to be junctions, basically, for me to wire into, so I can do like my Holley ins and outs and stuff like that. So let me show you how we're going to do that. And we're going to do that with this guy right here. And I've already kind of got a cardboard design cut out, and I'll show you guys that in a second. But we're going to work on cutting this out, getting them mounted in there, getting this stuff mounted in there, and I think that's what we're going to do. We're going to call it for this one, because then the rest of it is me just wiring, and I don't think you guys need to be, you don't need to watch all that, is what I'm getting at. So let's go get my CAD design, which is, I know it's kind of a corny thing to say, but I already looked at some of this stuff already, and I have kind of crudely cut out a design for the switch to go on. It's going to mount on the firewall. And the idea is we're going to have our switch there and two of these. One's an 8 gang and one's a 12 gang. 8 gang is going to go for the ins and outs for the Holley, and this is going to go for some other stuff, which I haven't quite figured out yet. But we also have another little switch box or little fuse box that's going to go right here. And when we go in the truck, it's going to basically, I have to move this, hang out right here. And so I'm hoping that's going to make sense once we're ready to install it. And I've got some work to do, so I'm going to get on it and get to cutting this guy out. Here we go. Many days later, probably 20-ish hours into this thing, we're not completely finished, but we are done to the point where I wanted to get. I got some work stuff coming up, and I wanted to get to the truck to a certain point, and I've been losing sleep over it. So we're good. We're good now. So let's just give you a tour from the front, from the back to the front. So we'll start here. I have put 2 new cables. There's one here and one here, power and ground. Going through the bed. We're going to look up underneath here. See if I can show you all that. I've got a 50 amp breaker right there. So, in fact, I'll just leave it undone for now. And we got wires that run all the way around, down, and into the cap. The reason I did that is because, well, like I said, I wanted a real clean source inside the cab. I probably should have done this when I ran the battery cable originally, but this is a modification that works instead of having to redo that whole battery cable. So, from there, we're coming in the truck. We're running down our firewall. I extended the power wire for the Holley, which is right here. Only about 8 inches or so. Got that all wrapped up. Got the harness shortened, as you saw. It's a little cluttery here, but you know, it still works. And then from there, we've got relays mounted on the wall, fuse mounted down here where it should be. We've got a secondary fuse block, but my cables run all the way to this relay block, and that's that leash electronics relay block. Now, I made a mistake. There's 12 inputs, and I only put a bus bar for 10 in there. So it's something that I don't feel like redoing at the moment because I don't think I'm going to use half of these relays for a little while. So that's okay, you know. But from there, I'm going to be able to put triggers into all of these, and I did them in order. So this bus bar corresponds to number 12 here, and then 11, and then 10, and then 9, and so forth and whatnot. So the only two I'm not going to use at the moment are 1 and 2, and I've got the wires in there. But the bus bar brings the trigger wires into the connector. So when I want to put a trigger wire into here, say ignition hot or something else, I just put it into this side. It's going to be nice and easy for me to do. So I still have some work to do on that. From there, the Holley input and outputs. I've got it going to its own bus bar. So the first 4 are the inputs to the Holley. The second 4 are the outputs. So for example, this yellow one right here is my electric fan output. So I'm going to be able to take my electric fan wire, hook it up into there, and we're going to be good to go. No more, and it'll be nice and easy to make changes and stuff like that. I am going to have one of these wires, probably this one right here, is going to be the pulse width module out for the progressive nitrous system that we're going to put on the Holley Terminator. So from there, I jumpered from the power straight over to this secondary fuse block. I'll be able to use some nice grounds and have some other power terminals if I need it. Right now, I only need one for the transmission. I've got some ignition hots over here. It's not the prettiest in the world, but man, it looks a whole lot better than when we started. And I need to go back and look and see what this thing looked like when we started. Maybe I can show you guys before and after. But I'm to the point where I'm very, very comfortable now. So I've got a lot going on. And in fact, you know what? Let's go ahead and just see what we're working with now. Let me turn this back on. Let's hook up the battery. Oop, little snap right there. Let me get the 3.5-inch dash. And let's make sure our alternator's working and stuff like that. Let's see what happens. Let's see if it all works like it's supposed to. I haven't tested it yet, so this is making me kind of nervous. Sorry guys, I'm hooking up some stuff. All right, there we go. That's all good stuff. The dash is firing up. Let's see what happens. All right. There we go. Everything looks like it's working okay. The AFRs are a little funny, but they're working, so we'll wait till it warms up a little bit. Good battery voltage. All right. Wonder why it's so rich at start. So I'll definitely need to look into that. But it's working, it's running. Sounds pretty good. I'm gonna probably keep an eye on this AFR for a minute, let the truck warm up, and then I'll get back to you. Warmed up, in closed loop, adjusting like it's supposed to. So we're good. It's not exactly where I'm targeting. I almost wonder if it has a better signal now than it did before, which that could be something. So yeah, anyway, let's kick this thing off. All right, that's awesome. That is awesome. Runs like it's supposed to. Running good. Let's turn everything off. Let me answer my wife because she's calling me, and I'll be back with y'all in a second. Where was I? Yeah, so I did a lot of wiring, and it took a lot of time and a lot of hours and a lot of kind of lost sleep over it too. But I'm very, very happy with the outcome. I would buy one of these boards full price, but hopefully I don't have to. And I'll just keep going to swap meets. There's one coming up in at the end of October here in Conroe, Texas. So I'll go look for another one, right? So this is awesome. So I've got a lot of buttoning up to do. I've got a lot of stuff to still wire in. I'm going to wire in a flex fuel sensor. I'm going to wire up the nitrous, install all the nitrous stuff that Matt Happel gave me and the kit that I bought from Chuck. Thanks, Chuck. And start putting things back together. However, let's talk about it real quick. I'm about to go into what's called a go live. We're turning on the system that I support in medical IT at the facility that I am working with. So it's going to be really, really busy. And I can't do videos every week because of my schedule is going to be pretty hectic, a lot of overtime. So yeah, we're going to I'm going to try to get one out to you guys every other week until this is done. Well, you know, when the project's done, we'll really get after getting it done. Can we get it done and get it to the track before things close down in December? I don't know, but I'm going to try to do everything I can to make that happen because I want to get some passes on it in the fall, maybe the spring too, when the weather's nice, the air is good, get some E85 in it, throw a 100 shot on it, see what we do, and then go ahead and go into that 200 shot. I've got enough injector for it. I've got plenty of plugs to do some plug readings. I bought a whole bunch of them, and well, we're going in the right direction, and I'm glad to be finally making some progress. We'll work on the Jeep later. This is probably going to be an after my Go Live is done project, and I can't wait to kind of get this thing on the road. I'm hoping to be driving that in the spring, maybe go down to the beach in it, something we always wanted to do. But yeah, that's it, guys. I'm shutting it down. I'm going to shut the shop down. I'm going to go inside, clean up, eat dinner, and get ready for this crazy weekend that I got coming up. Speaking of the weekend, I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. It's probably Saturday and you're checking this out, and if you are, thank you guys so much. If you're new to the channel, well, we got all kinds of things. That's a Typhoon, Sonoma GT, a Bel Air, and just Nova, all kinds of fun stuff. So we got plenty of things to work on, so come hang out with us, and please consider subscribing and hanging out with us. Other than that, you can check us out on our socials, which is at The Racer X Garage on Facebook and Instagram. And hope you guys have a fantastic October. Hope to see you guys in a couple weeks. And well, let me know what you're working on in the meantime so I can live vicariously through you while I'm working at the Go Live. So anyways, thank you guys so much. We'll see you next time. Until next time, y'all be good.